Today is January 23rd, and the Board of Commissioners workshop is called to order at 2:03. Will the Assistant City Clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
Vice Mayor Douther,
Present.
Commissioner Oakley,
Here.
Mayor Black.
Present.
I'm not sure where Commissioner Lister is. I haven't heard anything.
Well, then he's
Absent. Commissioner Lister.
All right, the first item for a topic for discussion is the Jolly Trolley. We're having a presentation by, I'm sorry, I lost my place there. Rosemary Windsor. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. The floor is now open for public comment.
I know there's a little to read there, but for the purposes of this discussion, what I highlighted on pages 2 and then the information on page 3 is what we'll be discussing. All right, we ready? And my name is Doug Andrews. I live at 90 141st Avenue here in Madeira Beach. I'm just going to start it off real quick. Just one question, Commissioner Oakley. Are you posting comments and internal city documents on the site nextdoor.com anonymously as Kelly Higgins?
No, I'm not.
Okay, great. Well, we can read Commissioner Oakley's other posts later, but page 1 to me is pretty alarming. Madam Mayor, does that post look familiar? It should, because it's absolutely identical to the speech you read at the BOC meeting on January 9th. The alarming part is Kelly Higgins posted this online the day before on January 8th. You see where I'm going with this? I only have 3 minutes, but I'll deal with you at a later date. But if you're plagiarizing Kelly Higgins, you must know who she is, because I can assume there hasn't been a Shades meeting to discuss Robert Preston's letter. Let's concentrate on the bottom of page 2 and Ms. Oakley's response on page 3. First of all, there is no Kelly Higgins in town. Kelly Higgins is a cowardly fictional character that one resident has ridiculously compared to Batman or Zorro. But you can see on page 3 where Commissioner Oakley made her boo-boo and responded to this string under her real name, Nancy Oakley, and not Kelly Higgins. Excuse me, it's my turn to talk. I got 3 minutes. It's very easy. Follow the sequence. Kelly posts, I respond. Kelly posts, I respond. Commissioner Oakley posts, okay? From the rhetoric, the Dougie and the zip it, and the direct response to my comment, even the most ardent supporters of Commissioner Oakley can connect the dots here. If you want further proof, that response was taken down almost immediately. Unfortunately, Commissioner, when you respond to someone, they send that person an email, which is what you are all reading here today. But if you want to blindly look the other way and pretend you don't see the pattern, the Commissioner certainly would have to answer why she's harassing a former city employee who also happens to be a resident, a business owner. Among things that she says, I need to be gone, and I'm part of the problem, and she intends on rooting me out. This is under Commissioner Oakley's actual response to me. I need to be gone, and she is going to root me out of the city, okay? Is there any way a sitting commissioner should be speaking to a resident like that? Ralph, a full investigation needs to be done, as she is proven to be completely unfit to continue to serve as a commissioner. At the very least, this is conduct unbecoming an elected city official. You need to resign immediately, okay? And if she doesn't, this commission should take it upon themselves, because it's a reflection on all of you. You should demand her resignation, okay? But I'm glad everybody's getting a chance to watch this. I know this isn't a question and answer, but if I was accused of this slander, this harassment, I'd be screaming from the rooftops that it wasn't me. It's time to be a big girl here, Commissioner. This is your Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky moment. This is your Marion Barry, the bitch set me up moment, okay? What you do or say here is going to be your legacy. So are you posting online anonymously as Kelly Higgins?
No, I am not.
So how do you describe what?
No idea.
Wait a minute.
I don't even go on there hardly.
Okay, so why is, wait a minute, there's
have
an
no
email
idea.
with your name on it.
I have no idea.
So somebody hacked your email.
There's
No.
not going to be a response.
You'll be next.
Commissioner-
Don't worry. You'll be
Commissioner
next.
Oakley.
You'll be next, Mayor.
Commissioner Oakley can respond after you take your 3 minutes.
My 3 minutes is up, I guess, right? Okay, I think so. Okay. Yeah, Commissioner.
Are you done?
Oh, I'm finished.
No, I did not post that. I don't get
You
on
didn't post it under
Nextdoor.
Nancy Oakley.
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Excuse
I'm
me,
sorry.
point of
Yeah,
order.
Point of order
You-
today, right?
This is public comment. You don't have to, under the law, answer any questions. It's for the public to come up and speak. It's not for a dialogue back and forth.
She may speak and respond to what you said, but you need to sit down and leave the microphone there, please.
Oh, so I can't respond back to her comment?
No, there is not
Really?
a,
Okay.
it is not question
This is a
and
public
answer.
comment when there's 3 minutes of time allocated to the public to say anything. But you're not required to answer or engage in dialogue.
Thank you. Commissioner Oakley, would you like to respond to what he said?
I did not make that post. I don't know how, where, what. I don't know. I don't get on Nextdoor.
Anything else?
No.
Just a moment. I would like to respond also to what you said. I would like to say that on here, you said that I do see transparent Mayor Black and Commissioner Oakley on this feed. I have never been on that feed. You will not see my name, you have not seen my name.
Your name's on the feed, Mayor. Your name's on the feed, Mayor. You ever read the feed?
You can call the next speaker for
I
3
will.
minutes.
Yes.
Steve Kochick, 15301 Second Street East, Madeira Beach. I've been following this also, and I did see those financial statements from Madeira Beach that were posted, and they were underlined as far as making accusations that these were fraudulent and that was money robbed from the city. I'm requesting that the Board of Commissioners contact the Department of the Sheriff to do an investigation, hold an inquiry. As per city charter, you may call for an inquiry and find out if that money was stolen, and if so, whoever stole it, bring those perpetrators to justice. This is our city money. Whoever is making these accusations, it's time that we don't let it go by. You made an accusation, now you pay the price. Call the city sheriff's department and tell them that you want an investigation by a detective into money being stolen from the city, and let's get it out in the open. Let's find out what's going on. It's about time. We keep hearing this over and over, that money's being stolen. Well, if that's your job, is to protect our taxpayers. So I expect within a month that there is an inquiry being done and the sheriff's department notified, and that they are going to start the inquiry. Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment is now closed. And I apologize for the interruption, but we'd love to hear your presentation now.
Thank you very much. Rosemary Windsor, CEO of Jolly Trolley in 410. Yeah, 410 North Myrtle, Clearwater. And I'm here at the request of the city manager. In fact, I contacted him about a month ago and sat down and had an informal conversation with him about learning a little bit more about our history of the Jolly Trolley and talking about are there opportunities that maybe would be good for the city of Madeira Beach. Excuse me. So I had put together packets for you. Unfortunately, at the time, we didn't think we'd have a computer available, so I don't have it on slides, but you do have one in front of you. I would say that some of our goal today from my presentation is to really introduce the Jolly Trolley to you, who we are, who we're not, a little bit of our history. Also to benchmark a little bit of the successes out of North County and why that we think it could be a great opportunity for South County to also share into that. And then talking about maybe food for thought to where are there opportunities to where that we can partner going down the line a little bit further. If you take a look at your packet, if we have a very simple mission, we're out there strictly to reduce traffic congestion and emissions. In fact, when you go to the next slide, you'll see that we started operating in 1982. and really developed as a means. This is back during the time, some of you may remember the catalytic converters, to where everybody was very concerned about the emissions, and catalytic converters were put on, and we were looking to reduce congestion. 3 of the communities out of Clearwater Beach got together, purchased a couple of trolleys at the time, went to the city and said, we'll pay for the trolleys, we'll give you the equipment, would you please go ahead and run the business for us? And that was kind of the start for us at the time. You can tell that we are very immersed in local issues. We sit on boards in the local community. Would love to infiltrate and come down in this area as well and be a part of this community. Also, we sit on quite a few of the county, or I should say a lot of the city committees for looking at transit solutions. Since I think right now, with all of us living in paradise, we all tend to struggle with trying to get people to and from their locations in our beach areas. We are a 501c3, not-for-profit, and the reason that I bring that up is that most people think that we are associated with the PSTA or the City of Clearwater. We are no longer associated with the City of Clearwater. As times changed from 1982, we're no longer part. So we're an independent, and that's why that I can come here and talk to you today and say that there are opportunities. We have 2 distinct business streams that I'll just go into briefly. One is we operate public routes, and one is that we do private charters. So if I can start kind of from the bottom and work our way up, this is something that we've taken a look at in your area. You put together a lot of great festivals, a lot of great events in your area, such as your seafood festival, to where that if you're looking for transportation and people who can professionally run it, we're it. I can tell you we work with Suncoast Jazz in Clearwater every fall. We work with the Thespian annual event that they put on in Tampa. And I can tell you after we do it for a community once, they pretty much tell us, you've got it. We don't need to bother because you know how to run it. We do so, and typically we'll take a look at how do we do it that's the most economic way to do so. You can tell that with our, not only do we do festivals, events, we do weddings, pub crawls, corporate events, and any type of unique transportation. So something that the city can look at, again, for the use of or use of private transportation. Going on to the next slide for our current routes. We currently service Clearwater Beach and the coastal route, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, and downtown Clearwater. And both of these 2 routes operate 7 days a week. I had talked to you a little bit about benchmarking about the communities and why would a community try to go away from what they currently have transportation-wise, and why would they come out to utilizing something with us. If you go to the next slide, it doesn't matter. Everyone loves the trolley. It doesn't matter whether you're, I often say, 8 or 80. Trolleys have some type of a great appeal to them, to where people very quickly will get on a trolley where maybe that they won't get on a bus. In fact, a lot of our tourists that come into the area don't perceive us to be public transportation. They see us to be something that's, a lot of times what we say is transportainment. So we're transportation with a little bit of an entertainment flair. We also will do a little bit more customization. To give you an idea, for example, on Clearwater Beach, what we do now, we go right to the door of several of the hotels to make it convenient for those people. So we try to service people in a little bit more of a distinct way that makes them feel a little bit more special and gives a little bit more customized service. Our drivers tend to be very engaged. We call them concierge on wheels. So if you have something going on in your community that you would like us to have the drivers talk about, the driver will recommend, hey, are you aware that there's an event going on? Can we bring you over to a certain area? Also, our routes extend beyond coverage of your current bus routes. A lot of times we run later than what they do. In fact, we go as far as Sand Key on Clearwater Beach, and that's picked up by the county bus. We get a tremendous number of calls from your community and Indian Rocks asking us about trying to connect the connectivity between Clearwater Beach and also coming down on the south beaches. If you go on to the next one where you have the graph, I just wanted to kind of, this is a little bit benchmarking for you, where we have been in communication with, or I should say, we have actually run the routes for the coastal route, which is Dunedin, Palm Harbor, and Tarpon Springs. We've run those routes since about 2010. And the way that we developed that relationship is through the mayor of Dunedin. In fact, if you ever wanted to sit down and have a conversation and say, is this worth it for our community to take a look at, talk to Julie Bajowski. She will tell you very clearly what her thoughts are on the whole transportation side. We had serviced that community from 2010 until 2016, just 3 days on the weekend, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And October 1st, 2016, we changed that to 7 days a week. And just to show you what the difference is, on that bar graph, you'll take a look. Just comparing the 3 days to the 3 days after we ran 7 days a week, we were up 22.65% in ridership. Once that I reviewed this with the city of Dunedin, with their commissioners back in October, they wrote a letter to the county bus and said, we want to change our frequency and increase it because we think that there's value. They're bringing people into our cities. They're helping our commerce. It's a lot different. We're getting people who are coming through here, and that's what we like. Just a little bit of our facts. We run 25 vintage trolleys. We'll take delivery of 2 more in March. 33 employees. We do our own house shop as far as maintenance, so we don't have to send them out. We just currently signed a 5-year contract with the PSTA with 5 one-year options afterwards, but we're always looking for additional opportunities. We have the availability to do so. We'd like to see a little bit more coverage in the South Park to where we get so many phone calls from this area asking about the connectivity, and we'd like to be a part of your community. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about who we are, because most people feel like that we're part of the city of Clearwater or that we're part of the county bus, and we're not. The county bus pays us to run certain routes for them. As I was telling you about the Dunedin one that we started 7 days a week. By doing 7 days a week for them right now, the county bus has been able to take down their 66 route. So we have replaced that. As a non-for-profit, our overhead is less. We tend to run it less costly. Plus, we bring our own equipment. All of our equipment is owned by us. We never come to the cities and ask for money. We purchase through our charter business. We take the money from the charters and repurchase new equipment. So it's a little bit about us. I don't know whether you have any questions, and if this is kind of what you anticipated hearing, but we did want to familiarize you and just let you know again, it's successful on the north side of the county, bringing people in, and we feel like that it could be very successful for the south side too, whether start out with the private side or the public side.
Ms. Windsor, I have a question. I noticed that on the trolleys, they have the equipment there available for people to put their bikes. Do you have accessibility for wheelchairs?
Yes, we do. All of our equipment is ADA equipped, so we take wheelchairs, all our pretty much side loaders now for the safety of the individuals being loaded. So 2 bikes on the front and an electronic wheelchair lift on the side.
What's the timing? Do you run like the same 20 minutes that the other trolley runs?
You know, it would be based off, it would be a coordinated effort with them to come back and to say, would they be willing to give us the routes? Would they be expecting any compensation from the city? How would they do it? Is there an FDOT grant available? So sometimes there are grants available for starting a new route, and it would be something that we'd sit down and say, here's the frequency now. Could we get a grant to run it more, less frequency, or whatever it may be? We also, again, tend to run later. Our routes on Clearwater Beach end on the weekends at 11:30 p.m. and in Dunedin at midnight. So we do tend to run a little bit later. We ran until 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve, so I think that was about an hour later than what the bus does. And our whole goal is if we can keep people off the roads from drinking and driving, coming on and partying with us, that's great. And because we are public transportation, if it's not a private charter, the no open container law prevails. So we do not allow drinking on public routes.
I got a couple questions for you. Would this go down to like John's Pass and turn around and go back at this point? And then down the road further, you would probably try to get Treasure Island and St. Pete Beach in? I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out. And if you don't have Indian Rocks and Reddington and North Reddington and all those, do you still stop there? Because when I read this, it said you stop at every transit stop along the way.
Yeah, what we would do is if it's something that is of interest, what we would do is start pursuing it back through the PSTA to say, you have an interest, you've seen the successes in the North County, you have an interest of looking at it for the South County, and then we look at bringing the other cities involved. I will tell you when Dunedin started with this, I actually went down and I paid a visit to the merchants who said, we're interested, but we need time. Julie kind of embraced it at the time. Once that she started getting excited about it, she went to Pinellas County, got Palm Harbor in, then she ended up talking to Tarpon and got them in downtown Clearwater. And I could see that happening in this area too, is that if we start seeing where cities are popular and that there's going to be a connection there of talking to the other cities and saying, is this something that you would like as well, so that we have, better connectivity than just jumping over cities.
Okay. You talked about in here your private charters and the pub crawls and things like that. How does that work? Like if I was going to have a pub crawl or if I was going to have an event, the people would contact you and then you'd work out a fee, I guess, is how it...
Exactly. In fact, and then what we do, because people contact us all the time, our number one charter right now on a consistent basis is weddings, closely followed by pub crawls. We do quite a few of those. So people contact us and say, I've got a birthday party, I've got a group of friends, I've got my neighborhood, we want to go out, be safe, don't drink and drive, pick us up at my house, and then we price it out, 3-hour minimums. If you want to keep adding, we go ahead and price it at that time.
Is that location strictly for the areas that you're in? Like if I wanted to do a wedding and I wanted to go into Pinellas Park or downtown St. Pete, that's all available?
All available. In fact, we kind of price based off of concentric circles. I can tell you we do as far down as Sarasota for the Ringling Museum. We've done quite a few down there. Fort Myers, we do a parade down there every year. We've done Orlando. We do a lot in St. Pete, and we do a lot in Tampa. So whatever that anybody's willing to pay for, concentric circles meaning the deadhead time is a little bit more, but we do all locations. And again, private charters, they're totally geared toward you. Nobody from the general public jumps on.
My last question is, reading all the information we had here, it said that if someone has a transit authority card or pass, that it's accepted on the trolleys also. My question along that way is because I know a lot of the lower income people get the passes so they can get around, but so they can use it on your trolleys also, correct?
They sure can. We honor, all of our passes are interchangeable between us and PSTA. So if somebody gets on right now with a 10-day reduced or whatever through PSTA that requires us to issue a pass, we do so. So we don't turn away anybody who has a pass that's, as long as it's a Pinellas County. If it's Pasco, we don't accept those, but as long as it's Pinellas County, we do accept those. Also, there's some arrangements that have been made through the PSTA with people such as USF, through some of the health departments, and we honor their IDs as acceptance too. So whatever has been negotiated through them, we will honor.
That if someone wanted to just buy a pass from you guys, then they would pay you cash in these prices that were given, correct?
Are you talking about like $5 for a daily pass?
Yeah, or weekly or monthly or...
We no longer sell the extended passes on board. We used to until our new contract started. Now we sell dailies, and during the spring break, we'll also be selling 3-day.
3 days.
But they're the same prices.
All right.
And just some of the things too. I mean, we're getting ready to run a spring break program with the city of Clearwater, something for just about 2 months to try to alleviate traffic, having people park downtown and go over to the beach. So I mean, there's all creativity that we can do. So it's not just that we're limited to saying, is it just the areas that we serve or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of options. So this is kind of like to open up the door and say, again, kind of get the wheels turning of saying, are there opportunities either on the private side first? We actually did some bids a couple of years ago for you all, but because we don't have the relationship and there wasn't enough committed consistency, the person at the time wasn't crazy about our private charter rate. But I mean, if we can do something on a regular basis to where your events come up, I mean, certainly we would take a look at the pricing too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And have you thought about what routes it would take through Madeira Beach?
No, I mean, typically if we can get the buy-in from the cities first and through PSTA and to see if there's grants, because sometimes they'll come back and they'll want to charge the city a little bit more. It will just depend on whether they'll do it a trade or not. At that point, then we sit down in the process and come down and say, what are you interested in? What can we do? What is not being serviced, or how do you want it to be done? And then we work with you individually.
Okay. And I did see that you will stop at other places if someone is clearly waiting for the trolley. And I'm concerned if that would be, because obviously it would be on Gulf Boulevard, if that would impede the traffic or be a problem.
We do flag downs in cities. I will tell you on alternate 19, which is probably somewhat similar, maybe not as bad as Gulf Boulevard, we only stop at designated stops. We share the real estate on all the signs with PSTA, so if there's any of their signs, about 100, typically they're about 100 yards. So wherever their stops are, they allow us to put our signs on as well, and that's where we stop. And we tell people you do have to be at a designated stop for safety reasons. So,
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Ms. Windsor.
thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have an update from the network people. Nate Freeman. Thank you, Nate.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Black. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you. I'm Nate Freeman, President CEO of Network People, and we've been doing this for 24 years. You'll probably haven't awakened this morning thinking, I can't wait to hear about IT, but it's what we really like to do and enjoy talking about it too. So my goal is to let you know about where we came from with City of Madeira Beach, and where we are at now, and also include a security update, as that's one of the most recent initiatives that we've started. With me is Elias Leslie. He's our Director of IT and Security, so he'll talk about the security piece of that. So over 4 years ago, Vince Tenaglia called me in. This is before the new building, before we had started working, and asked if there's something that we could do. Computers were not working well. Phones were not working well. They had issues that their current person was not able to handle. And he was a person that was part-time, not trained in the business. And so we put on a small monitoring tool to be able to get a better idea of what's going on the network. At that stage, there were no tracking of tickets. There's no history or paper trail of what was happening on the computers, so you could have the same issue over and over again and not gain any intelligence from it. So as we got to talking, he and the city manager asked if there's a way that we could put a more permanent thing in place where you would have consistent support, you would have an organization that throughout time and changes of staff would still know and understand the technology. So we put in a long-term agreement with you called an active IT agreement. We have that same kind of agreement with over 60 organizations in the Tampa Bay area. With this agreement, we are able to service the computers, work with the individuals. We help with everything from phones not working to wireless not working to things in the data closet here for the presentations to work well, for websites and for security. So one of the things that I wanted to show you, and I hope you all can see this on the board here, we walk through this with Walt and some of the members of the city on a quarterly basis. So this is what we call a VCIO report, or a Virtual Chief Information Officer report. And our goal is to have a good open dialogue about how the network is running, what we're doing to work on tickets. So this is the last report in a meeting that we had with you all. This describes the different types of tickets that you had in the categories. These are the tickets that were closed and the actual hours that were spent on that. So 98 tickets were taken, 88 actual hours on that. We had open tickets we give information about, and we list whether or not we met the service agreement for it. So we have stated hours of response time that we promise in order to take care of the network. And the whole idea about service response time is, in my theory, is that we want to make sure that organizations get the same level of service whether they are 5 people or 150 people. And the service level agreement gives a promise of that response so that you know that you're getting the top-notch type of support. So our average time to schedule is 4 minutes. Our average time in progress is 6.3 hours. And average time to completion is 7.8 hours at the time that this report was done. We have here the critical tickets, the customer satisfaction, and we walk through some of the other things we're doing. Like in the background, we initiate over 50,000 commands across your network to help protect the machines, update the machines, service the machines. So this is the kind of thing that without good technology, an individual would not be able to do. And then we have the client inventory, so the machines that are on. And on these, we color code the machines. So if the machine is over 3 years old, we color code it as in red. So these all machines will be replaced with new machines that are in our office and just came in, and we'll be replacing those. So as a part of the agreement that they signed 3 years ago, every 3 years you get all new hardware on the desktop level so that your systems don't get out of date. So we wanted support that would be from the day-to-day, and also a way to make sure that your technology didn't get out of date over the long term, and have an agreement to be able to do that. So that was the agreement from the report from the last quarter. And here is an up-to-the-minute report. It shows open tickets. Again, some of the tickets since the last report, average time to fulfill. Again, we're watching this on a daily basis with each of our customers to make sure that we're fulfilling issues. So you had a critical issue on a ticket that happened on the 11th of January. I can drill into that ticket, and the resolution time on that was 7 minutes and got resolved. We're able to drill into each of these. So we're fortunate to have a team that is really good at programming these tools so that we can see information that drills much deeper in. I can make these available to the commission or any leader that you all need have access to this so you can see where we're at. As a owner of Network People, I'm involved in a best practices group of over 500 IT companies in the US. And I meet with them on a quarterly basis. There's no one of those best practices IT companies that give this level of detail of information about what's going on with the network. And I only say that to say that I'm very proud of what our team is able to do, and most importantly for you, access to information so that you can make good decisions about what's going on with the network. So that's what's happening there. We have 3 other agreements in addition to the IT agreement. One is for the website. The website was started as a separate agreement to initialize a brand new site and then to do unlimited updates on that site. Right now we have 10 similar sized clients that we service with websites, and your city has at least 20 times more activity on the site than any of our others. So not only do you have more people coming to the site, but you have more requests for changes and updates to the site than our others do. But you're getting charged the same amount. So that's we feel a great benefit to you. We've come a long ways on the site. We've had several meetings with the leaders in the last year, and feel like it's come from a site that was out of date because it wasn't getting as much input to a site that is much better. We have a ways to go with it. We have some goals in training internal staff. And Miranda, we work with a lot, and she does a great job. We're real pleased to kind of have her on our team and partner with her to make some of those updates. We found, I think, one of the areas that I would like to be better at the most on the website is simply checking the content to make sure that the content is correct and accurate, that we don't have typos, that we don't have names wrong. And we're getting there. We're better, but that's something that is a group effort as well. And also just being able to change that from a day-to-day basis and update the information and keep it up to date. So that's the second item that we have an agreement with. The third is working on anything that has to do with sound, audio, and video. That is Alan Robeson's territory for us, and he's been here helping with recordings, helping with training the individuals on how to do that during the meetings, making sure that you have the needs met and you know pricing to how to do things if you have other requests. We have about $250,000 worth of equipment back there, not we, but you. And so it's complex, and it takes someone who knows a lot about it. Alan has run sound systems for 30 years. He's incredible at it, and we're lucky to have him on the team to help with that. So finally, I'll let Elias update on the security side, and then we're available for any questions you have.
Thank you, Nate. My name is Elias Leslie with Network People. I'm Director of IT and Security. Nate pulled me out of the dungeon, my IT dungeon, to talk to you today about the basically what our security agreement entails and what we've, we're glad that you guys have taken us up on the offer.
Could you talk into the microphone? I can hardly hear you.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Could you talk into the microphone? I can hardly hear
A
you.
little closer? Sorry. So we're very happy that you're giving us the opportunity to fix the security issues that we've seen and the vulnerabilities, and I'll go into detail here with some of the items that we have on the agenda for that. Let me just, we have the email here. There we go, got it. So currently, we started the agreement about a month ago, and we've got a security awareness training that we've already performed for the users. That was performed by Cora Joy, who comes here pretty much weekly and visits with you and helps with issues. The DNS filtering is another thing that was enabled during an issue that you guys were experiencing to, just help resolve that for the most part and help add an extra layer of security. That's been enabled and has been monitored, and we've been seeing it block actual attempts to access malicious code. As you know, the internet is a bad place. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet. If you just go to any website. Is it still? Sorry, let me get a little closer.
You gotta hold it right up.
Is it directional? Oh, that's it. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Thank you. As you know, the internet's a bad place. Just being on the internet, you can go to a website. You can it can be a legitimate website, and that website can have bad code associated with it. Just browsing the website, you can have issues with that. So DNS filtering is something that helps us know what websites are good, what websites are bad, and proactively protect against an infection that might happen on a computer or an attempted breach or security incident that could come through from that website. Helps protect on the email level as well. So if you click on a link in email, it will, basically that link is gonna go out to the internet, go out to DNS, look up something, and the DNS protection is gonna say, hey, no, that's bad. You shouldn't get to that, and it's gonna stop you. Two-factor authentication is something that we're right now in the process of rolling out. Some of you may have had this enabled already. If you're familiar with like banking websites that direct you to a second form of authentication, that it sends you a code on your phone. So every time you have to log into the website, it says, hey, are you really who you say you are? And sends the code to your phone. You punch in the code because you have access on the phone. You have control of the phone. That's what two-factor authentication basically is essentially in this case something that you know, which is the password, and something that you have or own, which is your phone. It's proving that you own the phone when it sends you that code, that you have control over the phone. So that's something that's going to greatly decrease the susceptibility, the ability for some hacker to take control over someone's website, or rather, no, so they're take control over someone's email account. So if what you have out just from having email accounts is you have someone that's constantly, or people that are constantly out there trying to hack into websites, hacking the email accounts with programs, programmatically. They're just constantly trying all the different combinations of passwords and what have you. The two-factor authentication, as soon as they see something like this, they go, all right, let's move on to the next one, because there's no way, unless they're gonna have some, CIA level or an NSA level, capability, it's very difficult. They're gonna have to, achieve some, they just move on to the next target that's lower on the rung, easier to compromise. So two-factor authentication gives you the ability to really thwart these sorts of directed attacks. And we've enabled that on your email first. And then we're going to be enabling it as well on your remote access, your remote apps. So workplace resources, everyone knows when you access Outlook. When you access Outlook, you go ahead and you click on the workplace resource. It opens Outlook. You can do that from your iPad. You can do that from home. You can do it from lots of places. So that's another area that needs to be controlled, and that's in progress. We'll be going ahead and deploying that as well, so that when you go ahead and try and open up something remotely, it's another way of preventing someone that's outside in New York or whatever, some hacker group that's housed wherever in the world, from being able to access your data or the data of your representatives. Security policy enforcement, that entails locking down legacy protocols and applications and making sure that they're protected, so that common attack vectors, if you will, common attacks are not successful. The name of the game in security is to reduce your attack surface, to make sure that someone is less likely to jump from one system to the next system to gain access to data that they shouldn't have access to. And honestly, that takes a lot of effort and a lot of basically just enabling all the security layers that we need to enable and working with the users to make sure that it doesn't also add a level of confusion and complexity that is unacceptable as well. So the next item is gateway security. Right now, as part of this new agreement, you're getting new sonic walls that have new security capabilities. And they're basically next generation security capabilities. In this day and age, sonic wall is think of it, back in the day you used to have firewalls and routers. Back in the day you used to have firewalls and routers. These were, a firewall was considered the only way that you would need to have to protect yourself. Gateway security is kind of the next evolution of that, if you will. So if you have a router, it comes with extra services, extra layers of security built into the router that protect you from multiple levels of threats, instead of just stopping a port and closing a door or locking a window. Basically, it's saying, hey, who's actually in your house if they ever do get in? How do we know someone's gotten in? It's nowadays it's not just about preventing people from gaining access to data. It's knowing if they have had access to your data and preventing them from having access for a long amount of time. So that's basically one of the biggest pieces that gives us that capability. So those are ordered and about to be delivered, and then we'll have those installed, and we'll work with you to make sure that the extra security levels don't impact you negatively. Quarterly risk assessment is something that we do on a quarterly basis, just to review your security and know what issues there might be out there that we need to respond to, whether that be taking away someone's administrative rights that they shouldn't have, locking down particular access to files or folders that they shouldn't have access to, and items like that. So it's a pretty long list, and I won't bore you with the details. But suffice it to say that I come in here and I review this, as well as other security personnel. We review this and make sure that when we see items that are in red here, we basically look into it and find out if that problem is something that we need to address with the customer, or if it's a problem that we need to make an exception for. So this is a constant sort of, you have to do this all the time. It's a constant struggle to make sure that that perfect balance between security and, basically interrupting the user and causing problems for user experience. We have to achieve that perfect balance, and that requires a lot of effort on our part and your part, working with the customers to make sure that this is going to, be a successful arrangement.
I'm just going to add in a thank you for the patience, especially with your team, in taking time to be more secure. It's not easy. I think all of us have dealt with the number of passwords that we have to use. And they say that the average person has 24 different opportunities to put in a password online, on the web. And many people use the same password for that, or the same couple of passwords. And the problem with that is you may be on a site that doesn't really matter, and you're using a password that gets hacked, and then the hacker will take that password and get into all the other sites that you may have access to. So if we don't change our passwords often, or we don't use two-factor authentication like Elias was talking about, then it's really like a master key into other accounts and can cause a real problem. So a quick story that highlights the importance of this. There's a law firm in the state that had been warned about using complex, long passwords. One of the clerks in the law firm was in charge of handling wiring of money during closing of contracts. So they didn't use a good password for it. Their email account was hacked. They had no idea it was hacked. And so the person that posed as that employee wound up sending information to the would-be closing person for the wiring of the money. So the wire instructions went out from a law firm correctly, saying that make sure and confirm that you have the right information, that it's this code, call the bank before you send the wire, and here's the bank and here's the number. The perpetrator went in, sent right before the person sent the wire, told them instructions of a different bank, a different account, and erased all the part about sending in a verification by calling. And the customer did wire the money, didn't call, used a different account code, and sent $943,000 to an offshore account, never to be recovered. There was no possibility of recovering it. And so what we're seeing is a lot of wire transfer attempts to hack. Most of them do not end up as a problem. But the biggest issue is that the perpetrator comes in and reads the email account, knows the organization, the players, who makes the decisions, who signs off on it, and they can sound just like the rest of the organization. So it's no longer the problem that we used to be facing with, the Nigerian prince and send me money. These are emails that sound very real and can cause a real issue. So we appreciate the opportunity to jump in from a security standpoint. There's so much work to be done on this. It's hours and hours that Elias and our team will be spending on protecting the city, and we're anxious to come back at the end of the 6-month time period, show you what we have done, what we have found, the shields that we have in place, and make recommendations for the future. So, questions, thoughts? Sure. Sure, no problem. Okay. Happy to? Okay.
is nothing but the truth. That is not the truth, and anything but the truth. In fact, when Nate called me and said that the city is under attack, I said, please do anything you can do to prevent this. And he mentioned the agreement, and I said, I've got to take this to the commission to have it approved. And I think at the commission meeting in December, it might have said that I agreed to this, but I think there was a misunderstanding that I agreed to take this contract at the commission. And after the commission voted on this, that and that only at that time did I make payment to them. So I just want to make that clear, because I think there's a major misunderstanding out in the residents that I agreed to a contract without commission approval, and that is not true. That is an error. And anybody saying that is saying something wrong. I just wanted to say that.
Sure. Yes?
Will I fix this problem?
Thoughts?
Typically, something like that is about a known, so if the Florida League of Cities is associated with any known malicious attacks or something like that, then they'll continue to block it. But we can go in and tweak the settings and work with the anti-spam or email security vendors to resolve something like that. Usually, once you unblock it or once you allow it in, it keeps.
Well, they did, then it stopped all of a sudden.
What's that?
They allowed it in, you guys came in and worked on it, it worked for about a day or so, and then, once again, they all started coming back in quarantine. And I talked to them this weekend, and they don't understand why, since they're using the same thing we are, Microsoft 365. So, I don't know, I'm just asking, how do we get this fixed, so these particular emails are not being quarantined?
I can definitely resolve that for you.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, it's a fairly easy fix. If it doesn't work the first time, there's other stuff that we can do that's a little more drastic to get it taken care of. But it's usually just allow this domain or allow this,
Because I know I'm not the only one here on the commission that has that problem. I know Mr. Lister, who's not here, said he had Nancy does too.
So everyone's having the same problem with that one domain, the Florida
League of Cities.
League of Cities? Okay.
I also get it from the Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Yeah, we can resolve that.
And I was told if you push allow from sender, then that'll fix it, but it doesn't.
That's what it should do. Yeah. If it's not, then it's something a little deeper than just that can be allowed by an individual person. It might be some phishing related thing that is associated with that domain, and they're being a little more strong about how they block it. So we just have to look into that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one question. I know you talked about passwords. Do you suggest that the passwords be changed every, 90 days, 120 days, or keep the same password forever? How often do you change it?
That's a very good question. There's some industry change in thought on that, actually. Recently, within the last 6 months, year, basically NIST publications have stated that it may be worse to change your passwords very often, because what happens is the end users usually just add a 1 to the end of the password and they end up having the exact same password anyhow, or it becomes too complex to manage and they just take it and they write it down and put it underneath your keyboard or something like that. So there's actually less security. So they've actually changed their stance on recommendations on changing passwords. So if there's a compliance or requirement, like a HIPAA requirement, guideline PCI DSS or something, or DFAR or something like that, that specifically says that you have to do that, you still have to do that. But if not under compliance, then recommendation from us is make sure it's a nice secure password, use two-factor authentication as much as possible, wherever possible. And those two things together typically solve the user accounts being hacked problem. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a New John's Pass Power and Lighting Project. Mr. Marsicano?
Yeah, that's me. I'm going to stand up for this one and walk around a little bit. Megan's going to get the computer set up, and what we're going to do is kind of go to Google Earth, and we're going to walk through the project, and I'm going to show you what we did. This was a project that was started back in several years ago. It was a lighting safety project that was took to the state. This project was completely funded by the state, $349,000 for this safety lighting project. What we were able to do is we're starting now at the Bamboo Beer Garden. Oh, just zoom down the road. What we were able to do is we put in a 400 amp panel at Fantasy Planet, which is the building that we own. And then that's the start of our uplighting. And right to the right of that palm tree is one of the pedestals. In those pedestals is 240 amp, 120 volt, 50 and 20 amp plugs. So with the addition of the safety lighting project, we were able to successfully install this electrical. In the process of installing the electrical, we realized that all of the pavers that were installed down there are installed without the proper base. So as you walk through the village, you will see we're falling about a 1/4 inch a year. Where the pavers go to the medians or to where the curb is. So eventually that will be another project that we'll undertake. My point for bringing it up now is that the areas that we were able to fix when we did this project, we were able to bore and shoot all of a lot of it. We dug the rest of it. There was very, very, very little inconvenience to the Johns Pass Merchants Association. You guys would have heard about it loudly. We were able to get the job done pretty successfully. In front of the elevator, right there is another trip hazard section that we did some repair on, but the whole village as a whole where we have pavers is going to have to be addressed at some point. If we can go on down Johns Pass Boulevard, you'll see the modules and the uplighting of the trees. And there is, like I said, 11 pedestals. We also put a 200 amp panel on the north side of Fantasy Planet. And then on the back side of the building, right where Megan has the arrow right there, is a 400 amp panel with 100 amp plugs, 250 amp plugs. We were also able to add some additional parking there. Once you go down, you'll see more uplighting on the trees. And when we go across and down towards the bell tower to the right, back up just a little bit. A little bit more. There you go. You'll see the uplighting there, and that's another 50 amp pedestal. We were approached by the association when they found out about this lighting project and asked us if we could add some power down there. Their cost for renting generators during the seafood festival is approximately $14,000 to $16,000. That expense they were able to take away with the installation of this project. We also were able to install all new light towers on the boardwalk. These light towers all have speakers in them. We do have the ability to broadcast music through these. We are not. We've had, so far, we've had 7 of the pedestals vandalized, most of the time by shop owners, and they do not want the music, so we will not be turning the music on. It'll stay off. We'll use the announcement system for Christmas boat parade, Veterans boat parade, other stuff like that. Can you go around the corner to Village or to Pelican Lane, Megan? I need to, while she's going around the corner, I need to reserve the next 2 workshops for Johns Pass. I need to have probably about an hour at the next workshop, and I'm going to need an hour at the following workshop. The problems and the stuff that we have going on down there are a lot more in-depth than we're going to be able to get into today. But moving forward over the next few workshops, I'll bring you into everything that's happening. We've had a request from several residents on Pelican Lane to add a sidewalk. Can you back up just a little bit, Megan? The sidewalk's approximately 5 feet wide. It's 1,040 feet of sidewalk right there. And the issue that we're having right now is that we don't have quite enough right-of-way, unfortunately, to get the sidewalk in and then to keep everybody's parking. Can you keep going down Pelican a little bit? As you go down, these buildings right here all use all the way to the curb for parking. So as we continue down Pelican Lane, you can really see it right here. So my ability to put a 5-foot sidewalk there is going to affect those properties and just make it a little bit tough on me. Going further, back up, backing up a little bit, we have the issue, you can see it now on these Google Earth pictures. Everybody's kind of parked everywhere. Why we're on Pelican Lane, we can also talk about the back of Pelican Lane. I think this is something that Linda Portell and Community Service is going to help us with. We do not want these sanitation cans sitting out like this. Everything should be inside of an enclosure. That's our feeling. That's what we want to see go. This whole portion, can you keep going down and looking at the back of these buildings? This is obviously not taken today because we just left there and it's a zoo. But we've got several issues right there. You can see a stormwater issue with an illicit discharge to my stormwater drain. And that just happened to get caught on Google Maps. But the back, I do not believe we're going to be able to get a sidewalk in just because of the difficulty of getting all of the folks to agree. It's $52,000 to put the sidewalk in, and that's without any problems. So how do we make this better? I think with Linda, we're going to do a lot of that, revising the code for them down there so they have to be enclosures such as that, making the business owners responsible. I think they're all doing a better job than they've been doing. We've got a couple of situations with recycle. This happens to be the Bamboo Beer Garden. They're in compliance, but there's neighbor residential right across the street. So they're also, you can see their dumpsters are not enclosed. And what I really wanted to do today was just walk you through that project. The project is complete. We also installed an 18-foot light at the east end of the boardwalk. We had several complaints from business owners and residents and other folks that we just didn't have enough light down on that end of the boardwalk. So we were also able to squeeze in an 18-foot tall light on the very east end of the boardwalk. The boardwalk's definitely safer, and our Johns Pass area is much safer than it was before. We have enough electricity down there to successfully do what the Johns Pass Association wanted to accomplish. And getting to our light. Our light's not there. Oh, there it is. Does anybody have any questions of our project or?
I do.
Yes, ma'am?
There is a palm tree that was hit by lightning, and it has uplights on it. Are we going to replace that?
Yes. Yeah, we're not going to, yes, we will.
And then you said that they were saving $14,000 to $16,000 for bringing generators into the seafood festival. So now they're hooked up to our power. Is there any way that we're charging back for them being plugged into our power?
Yes, it's metered.
Okay. Didn't know that. True. The parking lot.
Yes, there
on
is a
Pelican.
meter on it, but in full disclosure, we did not charge them for this past year.
We should start, probably.
can do that.
The parking lot that's back there on Pelican,
Yes, ma'am.
the one that Don Taylor runs, they don't have any stops in them. They're not even true parking lots, but they're charging for parking.
That would be, I don't know who you're referring to. Megan, could you go down to the Pelican Lane? Is it on Pelican Lane you're talking
It's on
about?
Pelican Lane.
Behind there?
It's the empty lots back there. They
Okay.
just stuck, pay stations in them and they're
Yeah.
not marked spaces.
I believe this will show the pay station next to Chief's fire hydrant. In answer to your question, that is, again, I'm throwing Linda under the bus. Didn't even see it coming. We'll have to look at that from a code issue. I know they've already been sent a letter, and they've already been talked to. They were supposed to move yeah, you're talking about that parking lot and that parking meter?
Yeah, there's two of them.
And the other one's next to the fire hydrant, I think. So, we can talk to those guys. That was not something that we approved. So we'll bring it up with them and chat with them about
Thank
it.
you.
But I don't believe they have a handicap spot there, so.
I don't think, there's nothing marked in there. It's just a
Right.
field.
Yeah. Those are waterfront lots, yes, sir. Parking lots.
Those are the two waterfront lots. I know, I think it's Florida Parking, and they've engaged myself to get a couple of bids for them. I think we turned one of them in yesterday, another one going in. So they're planning on conforming those lots here in the real near term, including some paved area for the handicap spots. Some of it crushed shell, and the handicap area will all be hard surface.
Greg Critelli, 13025 Pelican Lane. I agree with David, what he said about the sidewalk on Pelican Lane. I've been behind there for the last 15, 25 years. We've been going through that. The city right away is 25 feet. When I built my house, I had to stay 25 feet back because of right away. Now, some of them, I understand where they put the car stopper there. They can move the car stopper up, and then we can put the sidewalk. All those cars, they park there by the empty lot. They put the fence, they knock the fence out, and they still park on the street. I mean, it's all garbage, all the way up and down. If any of you guys, anybody, the mayor or commissioner, anybody been there, it's everyday thing. Garbage, cups. And they know, Mr. David knows about that. If we place a sidewalk there, you don't have it to be 5 feet. A 4 feet sidewalk will be safe. You have people walking, I started walking on the street, beautify the street, not for me, because I'll leave it there. I've been saying it right along. It's for the whole combined Madeira Beach, because all these tourists, they go around in circle every day to find parking. So when they drive around, they go through my street, their street, Pelican Lane, and they see the mess in the back there, which is, it's a terrible thing. We have such a beautiful thing on Madeira Beach. John's Pass, everybody comes for John's Pass. Regardless, we make good money on John's Pass for the parking garage, parking building and all that. Well, you know, we only need $52,000. Cut $10,000, get $52,000. Get the sidewalk in 4 feet and build a garbage container for these people and then charge them. It's so crazy to see that. I mean, I'm ashamed to say I live on Pelican Lane sometime. You know, people come in my house, how come the garbage is all rusty, all the paper all over the place? I say, well, we try. Now, you know, it's 10 years I live there. It wasn't like that before. It was not like that. Bamboo was not like that at all, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Their music was only on weekends. We got 7 days a week to 11 o'clock. This will never happen. That's okay. It's business. But to clear the street and put a 4-foot sidewalk is feasible because the city owns it 25 feet from the curb to the house. So there's a right away there. 4 feet will work. Why not? If you're building, right now, you know, what do you see? What you don't see, you have it to visualize that 4 feet sidewalk will work even by the Turo building, on the latest building, those shop that is for sale now. But they park in there. He don't want no sidewalk because he parks his car and make it $10 a car and $20 on events on city property. He charged on city property. How this can happen? That's unknown in my county. I never see in city property people charge. The city could charge and make money. But I think it's time to clean and let's put on the agenda, let's do something on the next meeting or whatever. Let's clean up the area, the whole Pelican Lane and the curve on 129 and for the whole city, for the whole city, not for just me, but the whole city can buy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. C. Yes, this doesn't, and we're talking about Pelican Lane right now. There is another road, 129th, that goes around the corner and all the way down with a lot of residents on it. And we're completely aware of the work that needs to be done on that road. So it's, you know, we're looking at this globally, not just specific areas.
My name is Debbie Weinstein, and I live on 129th Avenue. And I would just like to address and have everybody be aware of the safety issues on Pelican Lane. Forget the garbage and the rats, which we do see, and you're aware of that, you know, over many, many years. But the safety issue that I refer to here is if an emergency vehicle needs to get from Gulf Boulevard and is going to, you know, 131st and cutting through Pelican Lane to get to 129th, or even needs to get to Pelican Lane direct. Because of the amount of parking on Pelican Lane that has been developed in the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years, there's a steady line, not every day, I admit, but on the weekends consistently, even in the summertime, there's a steady stream of cars that are parked in one lane of the 2-lane Pelican Lane. On the other lane of, the other street lane of Pelican Lane, if I'm making myself clear, many times the cars jut right out into Pelican Lane. Therefore, if an emergency vehicle, if a fire truck needs to get down there, they can't get down there. They just simply cannot get down there. There's no room for it. And I think that is my most primary concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weinstein. So there's a 20-foot right-of-way, but the city doesn't own 25 feet in front of everybody's property. So, you know, unfortunately, it's going to be a difficult task, Mr. C. I can walk you through the surveys. I can bang on their doors. We can talk to the property owners. I can try to get it done if that's the direction I get from the commission. We're already moving forward with trying to fence these properties back here. I think I'm going to go on a limb and say they've been doing a better job lately. Our recycling company's been doing a better job, I think. But all this stuff has definitely been enclosed. I mean, we can look at it right now up there and see that that's not an attractive site. So I'll take direction which way you want me to go. I can't recommend putting the sidewalk on Pelican Lane. But we can look at it, and I'll talk to all the property owners, and we'll see exactly, you know, there's a lot of parking spots that are going to be lost in front of all those little apartments and villas there.
Dave, you said that when you first started that, you know, this is going to be hard to do, but you have some options, I guess is the way you put it. Are you going to bring them to us at the next meeting when we get to, when you,
Oh, I don't have any options for the sidewalk.
oh, you do not have any options? Okay, I misunderstood.
No, I'm sorry, sir. I mean, when I said I had options, I've got options to try to clean up this side of the road. Everybody that comes from out of 129th, and people stay here, so the weekends, the pedestrians are walking up and down the middle of the road. We just left there. It's packed. Packed. So they're, you know, kind of meandering around. It's the issue of, you know, there's parking. It's parking. So, I mean, we're doing our best job. If it's the direction for us to try to get that sidewalk in, I'll talk to the property owners, but I don't think that I'm going to have much luck.
So even a 4-foot sidewalk wouldn't change the parking problem?
No, ma'am.
And who's parking there? Are they business owners or?
Homeowners, those are all people that live behind there.
Okay.
They're not homeowners. I'm sorry, it's, yeah. We'll lay out a 4-foot sidewalk from the curb, but as you can, just back up just a touch, Megan. Look at their parking spots. Now, if I go 4 foot from the curb,
That's because they have a long van right there. There's a couple long vans. But if they move with a parking stopper, just as I said, up, they will work.
I'll look at everybody's property. Would that be okay? I'll pull that. I've already done it with Al Carrier. About 3 years ago, we staked it out for a 6-foot and came up with the same problem. But let me review it again with Al and to see exactly where all the property lines end up at. I mean, we have a 25-foot right-of-way, but it's not a 25-foot. We can do whatever we want.
Some cities I've been in, including Cape Coral where I live, I don't know if this would work here, but they take a painted line and they paint on the actual street and they draw a person walking. It's kind of like a bike path, but it's a pedestrian lane.
We could put a pedestrian lane on there too. But, you know,
I don't know if that solves the
who's going to go in the pedestrian lane? The road's much better to skateboard down the middle.
Yeah.
And it's not going to do anything to clean up the parking issue that is back there.
No, ma'am.
All the ones that pull up to the fence and,
Well, it would do that because stop me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we are allowed to park on a sidewalk. So if you put a sidewalk there, then it would be enforceable through the sheriff's department to
no,
not allow that.
I meant the pedestrian lane will not
Right.
alleviate that issue.
No, ma'am.
Parking issue.
No, ma'am. But like I said, we're going the right direction here. You know, I haven't gotten them all to enclose their garbages yet, but I believe it's already in our codes. I could be wrong.
I think it is.
I've been wrong before. So that's the direction. We'll move forward with the sidewalk and see where we can get it in and if we can get it in. And I will come back at the next workshop and we're going to spend a lot more time talking about Johns Pass.
All right, sounds like a good plan.
Is there any questions? Can you tell us your name and address? I think I forgot to tell them that.
Thank you, Dave. Steve Kochick, 15301 2nd Street East. With some of those dumpsters, suggested in the past that they be painted. You put a mural on something that's cut out of metal, they spray it in, and you could have decorative things where an enclosure is not feasible. If it becomes too difficult for the trash people to get to it, you don't want that, because you're going to have complaints, you know, from there. And on some of them, that would just beautify it also, that you have a pretty design that's on it, with maybe with palm trees and flowers and stuff like that, that could be designed very easily, put on, spray painted, and it's done. Just a suggestion.
I'd like to add to that too. A lot of those dumpsters and stuff that you see there are Progressive and other companies. So our guys are rock stars, and they keep the dumpster areas clean where they pick up stuff, but you know, we can't expect them to do all that. So you got the best sanitation staff of any city on this beach, up and down, and they do a really good job, but this is a problematic street. So we'll take what we've gotten from this today, and we'll come back with the answers, and then I'll come back and present you another hour of John's Pass.
We'll look forward to that.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Any questions? Any other questions? No?
The next topic is a calendar of BOC meetings and special events. Commissioner Hodges?
At the last agenda meeting, I guess I talked too much on it. I went into kind of detail as to what I wanted to do. I was just thinking that just for the information for the public, the residents to know, that we can have a regular calendar done up of Madeira Beach and have different pictures for each day of the month, each month, I should say, and just indicate on it as to when the Board of Commission meetings are, the Planning Commission, put down a time, workshops, put a time. This is something that the people could look at every day and then see what's going on. Then during the months that we have special events like the Seafood Festival or the Carnival here at Rock Park, we could indicate something with a picture and maybe a little detail on the side. And I just thought this was just informative for the residents, whoever would be interested. I personally have a big calendar at home, and I write every day on it for something that I need to do, and then I can always check and see what's going on, either that day, that week, that month. To me, it's helpful. Maybe more people are more technical than I am, and they just use their computers or their phones, but I like the idea of having it on paper in front of me. And if I need to change it, I can change it. If not, then it's set in stone there. So that was my suggestion. And I was asking the Board of Commission their thoughts on it and what you think, if that'd be a good idea to pursue or just let it go.
I think that we should have it on our next BOC meeting and vote on it. I agree with you.
I think it's a good idea.
As well.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, Miranda may want some additional direction on exactly what you're looking for. Are you looking for a weekly calendar that's going to be printed out by the commission, or are you looking at something hard copy?
It would be like a hard copy, something that people can have at home to hang up on the refrigerator, put on their desk, and do it for the whole month. You know, just a regular calendar.
So we wouldn't be putting things on this calendar?
No,
It would be a
no,
blank
but-
calendar with a logo and stuff like that?
Right, you know, we can have a picture on the top, like typical calendar, have the 30 days or the 28 days or 31 days, whatever the month is, and put some nice a picture on it for that month. Like I said, for the Seafood Festival in October, have a picture of John's Pass with all the activities going on, or the Rotary, the Carnival over here. You can have a picture of the Ferris wheel or the grounds showing all the activities going on for the month of March. But to me, you know, it'd be a regular calendar, and it'd have all the days marked on it. And then you could, you know, like on the Tuesdays, we'd have our Board of Commission meetings, or the Tuesdays, we have our workshops, and so forth like that, and it'd be informative. What caused me to think of it was that as I was going around getting cards done for re-election, there was a woman that asked me, she says, "When is your next meeting?" And so I told her. She pulled out a little piece of paper and wrote on it with a pencil and put it next to her phone. Well, in my case, I'd lose that. It wouldn't sit there for 30 days, you know, or a week. So I was thinking that if they had something that they could actually put up on the refrigerator or keep it on their desk, and then they'd have all this information available to them, so they'd be aware of, like, oh, today's a meeting, or Next week is a seafood festival, and I just thought it'd be informative for them.
And how would we distribute it? Would we, like, just put them in the lobby for people to come in and pick up? Or
Well,
some other?
I feel like, I'm not sure what it would cost to put something like this together, first off.
Right.
And I feel like we owe it to our residents to give them something. And I think that if we could, maybe print out 100, 150 to see how they go, with the option thinking we can always go back and do more if we needed to, and give them to the residents. Give them to the tourists to take home as a souvenir. That's my thought, but of course I'd have to get with Mr. Pierce on this to see where we are, not knowing exactly what it's going to cost to do this. But that was my thought on it.
Any more discussion? I think we have a consensus.
No, I'm good with that.
I agree with Nancy, I think, and then, certain months, like the month that the turtles hatch, could be the picture of something like that,
That'd be
or,
good.
things that happen, or the dolphins out there, or whatever, yeah, I think.
We would just keep it here in Madeira Beach,
Right.
pictures of
Yeah.
Madeira Beach and our beaches
Right,
itself,
what
and
happens at
the
our beaches,
activities
yeah.
in our city, yes.
All right. Next, we have the annual parking pass for non-residents. Commissioner Oakley?
I just thought we should have an annual parking pass for non-residents.
My concern about that is what impact that would have on the parking lots for the other visitors or residents. It'll take revenue away from, that'll bring
No, I
some.
understand that.
Mayor
That's why
and,
I just wanted to talk about it.
Right.
Mayor and Commissioners, we did some analysis on this, and we checked the city of St. Petersburg, city of Clearwater, city of Treasure Island. They really don't have any option for non-resident passes. City of St. Petersburg tried it. They had $125 annual for non-resident, and it really ate into their revenue. So they basically killed it. What we did find interesting, though, is all three of those cities charge fees for resident parking, which we don't. And we're not recommending that either.
That's a good thing.
I'm sorry?
I said I don't think so. Well, I'm glad you told me, because I was going to suggest, even though it appears that would be the case, that we should do a survey of the cities, but.
Yeah, actually, the city of St. Petersburg charges their annual residents $25 for a parking pass. City of Clearwater, $40 for 6 months, $75 for a year. And annual resident parking pass for Treasure Island is $45. And again, we're not charging anything.
No.
So I think we're okay where we're at.
Okay.
What, in the fees, isn't that part in the fees thing that is going to be presented here in a minute?
Yeah, and the
That's
fee
one-
schedule,
that's
we
one-
are recommending going from $20 for a pass for weekly up to 25, and then monthly from 60 to 75.
Because it has an annual permit, $100 in here and stuff like that, so I guess I'm kind of lost then.
I'm sorry?
In here, it says, for the parking, it has an annual permit, $100.
That's in the fee schedule?
Yes, there it is.
What page on?
Page 12, top of page 12. Goes from page 11, the parking fines, and it goes over annual permit. I'm assuming that's still under the parking permit. It says $100 and daily permit, $25. So, unless I'm misreading this totally, which is possible. Turn the lights on.
Well, that's under the next section, so Linda can explain that to you when she gets to that section.
Yeah, but I was saying that, but that kind of
Right.
answers what she's talking about.
Absolutely.
Any more discussion? Well, now we get to the next item, and that is the discussion of fees increases. Linda Portel, Planning Director.
Good afternoon. There we go. It's a little bit temperamental, isn't it? Right, we were, as a staff, going over the fees and trying to update them, considering, cost of operation and hourly costs for employees and supplies and things like that. They always need to be updated every now and then. And each of the departments evaluated their section and provided recommendations for enhancements, or in a lot of cases, as you can see, they left them alone. If something is not crossed out and underlined, then there were no changes made to it. So the annual fee that you mentioned, I didn't even recognize it when you mentioned it because nobody asked me to change that. That's apparently been in there already. We're not apparently offering it, so if it's not in the city's best interest financially, then that's something that
Needs to be scratched.
it needs to be scratched. Yes, exactly. There are a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to of note. One is that in regards to parking, the staff had recommended that the $2 parking for the metered parking per hour on Fridays and Saturdays go to $2.25. That would be a 25-cent increase per hour on Fridays and Saturdays. And then we noticed, looking at the fee schedule, that the metered parking shows up in different sections, like a metered parking at one park and then metered parking at John's Pass, which is very confusing. And anytime you want to make a change, we've got to make sure we hit it everywhere. So my recommendation would be to take all the metered parking and put it in one place under finance with the rest of the parking charges, so that we're sure we're consistent in the way we handle that throughout the city. So those are two things for you to consider. The other, which is more of a structural change and will have other implications as we move forward in our land development code and review, is that when we charge for site plan review, for some reason in the past, you'd charged a much, much lower rate for residential than you did commercial. So no matter how big the residential, it was charging less than no matter how small the commercial, which doesn't make any sense because your fees should be associated with the amount of work that goes into reviewing those. And a large commercial or residential development is, of course, as absorptive in terms of time and effort in hearings and advertising as a large commercial, whereas a small commercial can sometimes be fairly easy. So what I recommended is that be reorganized so that we set our fees based on the size of the development. And also, of course, have the option in there to charge additional if the development goes into multiple levels of review, or sometimes plans will come in and they're not complete and the staff has to keep sending them back asking again and again for the same thing, and each time we have to sit down and review them all over again. So if the developer is not bringing in complete plans, they should have to pay for the expense that they caused the city for that extra service. So the intent is to make sure that we're covering the cost of doing business and providing that service depending on how large the development is. It's also structured in a way that as we go through our development review process and begin looking at how we handle developments, down the line I'd like to propose that we reevaluate where we've placed some of our zoning and maybe diversify our zoning to allow us to do developments without having to go through a PD process every time something comes in. If we had strong enough land development code for various areas, then we could tell ahead of time what we wanted things to look like, and you wouldn't have to go through this extensive process with each development. You could just kind of design the city out ahead of time. It'd make it a lot more linear, the process for people coming in. They'd know ahead of time what they could and couldn't do, and then the residents also would have a better sense of what to expect in the areas. But I would recommend when we get to that point that we also have a hearing process for large developments that's not in there now. Only if you are a PD do you go to a public hearing. Now, I've never been anywhere where you didn't have some kind of hearing for a large development, but in our code it's potential that that could happen. So I think that I'm going to propose that later, that when we come back for reviews, give you a chance to think that through, and wanted to structure the fees so that we can feed into that later and make sure that if we go through hearing process and more advertisement, things like that, we've got a means of capturing the cost for those services. And all the department heads are here to talk about, except perhaps Frank, who's still out doing inspections. So if you have any questions about his section, I'll try to answer them.
I got a couple questions. I've talked to you about this a little bit, but back to the parking thing, because on page 11, it shows parking rates and weekly and monthly for certain areas. Would that be because of people coming down and renting and being able, and had no other place to park? It's like in the middle of page 11. It shows went from 20 to 25 and 60 to 75 for a monthly. There also, right in the center of the page.
Right, maybe,
Yeah, we're
Paul,
just
do you want to
kind
address that?
of, why don't we just take another look at that?
Okay,
I think we
both
need
of
to,
those? Okay.
we need to clean that up a little bit.
Okay, would you please? And my second question is, I didn't see in here the impact fees, so you haven't done those yet.
Right, impact fees are going to be handled separately because you need a whole separate enabling ordinance for that. These fees are all adopted as part of your procedures. They're administrative, and so they're approved by resolution. But impact fees have to be adopted by ordinance, and it requires a comp plan amendment and some text. I'll be working with Ralph to make sure that we've got the exact right language enabling that. I know that you were already working on the some fees that we already collect, and you talked about the fire fee.
Erica, before she left, was helping us with the fire impact fee and the basic impact fee. And
We had been working with her pretty regularly, and
Right.
then that all kind of came to it.
And we did want to meet with Ralph on this, but I guess at first we just didn't want to overwhelm him.
We're trying to give him,
I've written your impact fee ordinances before, we can work on them. You have to show a double rational nexus test. You'll have to
Right.
put it all into a special fund, and the money you collect for impacts to, say, roads have to be spent on roads in the same area where you collect the money.
correct. Most of our impact fee here, as you know, is on Gulf or on 150th, which are state roads. And then we also have impact fees that ends up getting collected for the county, for county.
Yeah, actually, what we would do, and I actually did this in Indian Shores too, would actually create two accounts if they don't exist already. I went back as far as I could. I couldn't find impact fees that we had received in the past, at least past 3 or 4 years. But we would set up an account where it's truly for our purposes, and then another account that's the share for the county. Because we would have to remit that to the county at the end of each fiscal year.
So we will continue to work on that. We have to kind of pick it back up where we left off with Erica.
I also noticed when I was going through like the rec department fees, for like the aftercare, after school care and stuff like that. And I noticed, and it was brought to my attention that last year they added so many children, they had to use facilities up here. Do we, and I don't know the answer to this question, you know, it's like, do we put a limit on it so it only impacts the rec department, or do we, because I know we run the senior citizens out of up here in order to facilitate, if I'm correct, the overflow of children, the number of children. So do we put a limit on it? How does this, I don't understand how this works.
That itself doesn't have anything to do with the fee structure.
Understand that? Yeah, I
Yeah, that would be a total another conversation, and I'm open for it. Basically, the size of the building that we're operating out of, due to tearing down the old rec center, building a new rec center, drastically. Previously, we were licensed for 15 square foot per child. New building brought us up to the current, we weren't grandfathered in this change, so it brought us up to the current one, which is 25 per child. The licensing then changes to we can only have a certain number of children within that building due to the square footage of the building and the fire code and all these other opportunities.
That pushed them up here then.
Yes, sir. So what we did is part of the licensing doesn't require middle school children to be necessarily licensed, but most of the families that have been in this program that we've been working with over the past 3 years that I've been here and previously have children in middle school and elementary school. So eliminating that middle school program, if we were to push them out of here and eliminate that middle school program, would severely affect the revenue brought in by the other half of the program that are the elementary kids. And again, it's a conversation we can have. We've discussed internally a few other options that we would like to work toward to maybe offset this burden. Burden's a terrible word for it, but I know that between the Zumba classes, the seniors, and our program, we've done, from my understanding, the absolute best to work together for it. So if there are any additional issues, then I guess we need to discuss it. But
Okay, like I said, I was just reading through it and I saw the fees and I'm thinking, is it really worth the money, the revenue that the rec department's bringing in for the few kids we put up here to,
yeah, I mean, we have 25 to 30 children in there at $8 to $11 a child. I mean, you do the math, it's a pretty significant number.
Understood.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I was
And
trying
a
to figure this
significant
out.
number of families that would be affected.
Yeah, it's a
big
real, and we've looked at the fees, we've compared to other facilities in the area, and we are extremely competitive, almost cheap. I wish my child was old enough to come here. I mean, it's a very good price for this, but when we look at it, those same kids that are paying for aftercare are playing baseball, they're playing soccer, their parents are getting married and remarried here and having parties and all this other stuff. So, there's a lot going on just with the roots of the children that are here. So as much as we'd like to see what kind of margin we can create by increasing $1 or $2 or whatever across the board, we have to, kind of straddle that gray area and make sure that we're serving the community as well as making the money that we need to, so.
Because then my next question for all the departments and Linda, did we compare the fees that you came up with against Treasure Island, against Indian Rock, against the other cities around here that's comparable?
So I think everybody's been keeping track of that. I did for planning. They're still relatively low. I know Dave apparently has something to say too. For the planning fees, because they went up quite a bit, I looked over what you'd been charging and actually was pretty shocked. The amount of time that goes into doing a site plan, especially like a PD, something that goes on for months, was definitely not being covered. We even have an amendment to a PD that was listed as $100. It's thousands of dollars worth of staff time to redo a PD, because an amendment is basically doing the whole process over again. So we were really not coming anywhere close to covering what it was costing the city to provide those services. I could tell you that even the fees that I proposed here, what I was doing was calculating out how many man hours and which people are involved, and trying to do just the minimum it would take to get through the process. And even with that, the prices that I recommended here are about half of what I know I was charging in 1990 in Gainesville. So it's really still much cheaper to get the services done here than what's being paid everywhere else.
I have one comment. In all of the funds that I manage, sanitation, the marina, we always go out to the other municipalities. We're always comparing our rates. That's the only way we're going to come up with good comparable rates to have to publish. We always do that. We want to be not the most expensive, but we want to be in there with everybody else. For us, it's City of Gulfport, it's City of Clearwater. When you talk about wet slips in the marina, when you talk about sanitation, we're comparing, the smaller cities.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at, Dave, is like, I don't want to be overcharging anybody,
No,
but
sir.
I don't want to be giving the city away either, so that's what I'm saying. What's Treasure Island charging for, if they have a comparable thing, if they're charging 100, we're charging 25, there's an issue there. That's kind of where it's coming from.
And we lay all those things
Okay.
down and look at them, especially for sanitation. That's a big deal. So we look at those comparatively. We didn't do any sanitation rate raises this year. There's rate changes in the marina all the way across the board pretty much. But sanitation, there weren't any, and stormwater, it takes a ordinance, I believe, and we did that several years ago. There's a whole study that has to be done. Dewell and Associates did it for us when we raised the stormwater fee from $5 to $10. So that fee you will not see change. Yes, sir.
The one fee that I don't want to see raised is the parking fee, because I think it's going to be very confusing for a lot of people, you know, if it's this price this day, this price that day. And I don't want to get into the gouging war of gouging the visitors that come. And the first person that's going to say something is the people in Johns Pass, because every time they have raised it, we hear from them. Because now you're making them pay more to park, and they're not spending as much money in their stores, and it's just a trickle effect.
Was it only raised 25 cents?
Chris and I looked at this and, you know, just felt that we wanted some type of increase, and felt that just during these 2 days would help the revenue and be competitive. We tried to look at being competitive with other people we're competing with, particularly down in Johns Pass. And we think that there's room for an increase. We didn't want to do anything significant, but we felt that it's warranted. I just want to say too, I mean, we're going to be passing this fee schedule, and then go right into our budget process. So we need to be aware of that, and increased areas in the budget, and trying to get revenue that we can to offset some of our needs.
Well, I think as long as we're not gouging people, or, you know, people will get used to it. The fees go up all the time, and they're...
I'm just not for it. I just don't think I just don't like it.
How often do we, or how often, I know in the past we haven't reviewed the fee schedule very often. Are we going to try to set something up to do it once a year, look at different fees? I don't know.
We always, in my departments, do it yearly.
Okay.
So other cities that I've worked with have done it annually.
Okay.
Things change a lot. And in some departments, we may be offering services differently than in other places. For instance, with planning or building, for cities that don't have their own department, they have to charge differently because they get its services elsewhere if they don't have in-house service. Having been here full-time now for several months, I can tell you that people apparently really appreciate having in-house services because they're here all day long now, backed up looking for input. So I think it's a great service we provide, but still the taxpayers are all picking that up. We've got to figure out how to bring that back in so that the people who are just living here aren't necessarily subsidizing what everybody else is doing for their own improvement or, you know, individual property enhancements.
You know, the one other thing too is with our new parking machines, new technology, making it easier for people to eventually, I mean, we got some bugs to work out, clearly, but eventually we have provided increased technology, and we would like a little bit of return from that.
And it looks like it was June of 2016 when we last revised them, so it's definitely time.
Linda, I just need to ask you a question. Once you get everything all up to date and current, is this something that will be available in the lobby here at City Hall so people can come in and look it up to get an idea as to what the fee is going to be?
I would think so. I don't know that there's a manual out there, but it definitely needs to be available online as well. A lot of people get their information that way, but sure, we can put a fees manual out there.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one silly little comment. The language needs to be the same. In one place, it says 7% sales tax not included, and in another place, it says each of the fees are subject to sales tax. That's a little confusing.
I would think so. I tried to get that in all the spots I could find it when I did a search, but that was an amendment I got from Dave's department.
Yes, why you see that is we do lots of leases, and the lease, with this past legislative session, they reduced the sales tax on rentals and leases to 6.8% instead of 7%.
Okay.
So Now, we have to go back and adjust for all that. So it's quite a task at 6.8 instead of 7.
We'll look for all those.
You have to differentiate between rentals and leases and sales.
Right, okay. Anybody else have any more discussion? Well, I'd like to thank Linda and all the department heads. It's a lot of work to go through all this and make the changes, and it's about time. It's good to do. Thank you. All right, next we have discussion of the city manager interviews and scheduling of a meeting to hire the city manager. I'll say for myself, I thought we had a lot of good people that we interviewed, and obviously a few have risen to the top. Is there any discussion? Anyone have any discussion about the interviews?
Well, prior to when we were just going through the selection process, I really liked Jonathan Evans. And after interviewing everyone, I still like him. He still rose to the top of all of them. So that's who I prefer to go with.
Have we heard from any of them? Because I know Mr. Evans, he had also an application out, and he was going to be talking to someone in Plant City, and also someplace up in Georgia, a city in Georgia.
Forsyth. I believe it was
Yeah.
Forsyth.
As
Actually,
far
he
as
was
you
up there
know-
yesterday. I talked to him yesterday.
You did talk to
Yeah,
him
and
recently?
he is very excited about coming here. He likes the city. He has lived here before. I believe when he was in Largo or Pinellas Park.
He was in Largo.
And he is very excited about coming here. So.
And he told me that when he did live here, it was the only city, because he lived in a bunch of cities, it's the only city his mom would ever come visit him in.
Yeah,
So-
he told me that too.
Yeah. So
She
that was
visited him more when he lived here than any other place.
Okay.
Something like that.
Right. Well, I think the best thing to do at this point is I would like to just call a special meeting for either tomorrow night or Thursday night, whichever works for everyone, at 6 p.m. and make a final decision.
I think we should go with Thursday. And when we select, I think we need to maybe select our top two. So when HR calls, if there's problems with the first one, then they can move on to the second one, would be my recommendation for.
No, I know Karen was going to do some type of background check on some of the ones that we interviewed.
Yeah, she
And has there
said
been a
she told me she
result?
already has done that.
Okay, is that information that we would get to kind of see anything?
I guess we can ask her for all that, yes.
My assumption is that there's nothing there, or she would have told us by now.
What happened to
But
John Murphy?
you have a right to look at it anyway.
Well, yeah, I kind of like John Murphy. I don't know what happened to him.
Let's see, John Murphy.
He's the one that we Skyped. He was from New Mexico.
Yeah, that was John Murphy from New Mexico.
Yeah, I remember, I did like him. He wrote this paper, where is this, ICM Leadership Task Force, which helped author a white paper on the complex challenges facing governments over the next 10 years. I thought that was impressive.
I think my second choice was Joe Helfenberger. Did you like him?
I liked him. I liked Mr. Bonner also.
It sounds like we're going to go back and do them all over again.
Got to go through all the interviews again.
All right, so is everyone available Thursday night then?
I'm not. Thursday night.
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Fine with me.
Okay, we'll move it to Wednesday.
Yes, we do, 24 hours.
4 o'clock now.
6 o'clock.
You're going to have it posted by 6 o'clock?
Yes.
At all places?
Yes.
May I speak?
Pardon me?
May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Steve Coaches, 15301 Second Street East, Ms. Wilkin. Hello? Okay.
Got it.
Steve Kochick, 15301 2nd Street East, Madeira Beach. Gone 8 months without a city manager. Now, this is very important for the residents of the city of New York, for the city of Madeira Beach. And you're rushing to have a city manager, and I can see that it's very important that you have it, because right now, we have an interim city manager who doesn't say a word. Budget, the finance director is giving you all your input. So why not give a chance so that the residents can make plans? You got your commissioners. Why not do it Monday? Gives you plenty of time for the papers to advertise it. And the residents then can make a chance to come and see. The city managers should be here when you're picking them. And please don't give an excuse that you're going to hurt somebody's feelings if they don't get picked. They're adults. 'Cause that was used once before. You didn't want, the board, not this board, a previous board, that they didn't want to hurt the person's feeling. Give me a break, But I think Monday would be a good day. There'd be plenty of time for advertising, to get it out and all, the proper advertising, and the city managers could be here, and more importantly, the public could be here. This is a very important thing. I can see how things are going now, and you're taking things upon yourself without really the input from the city manager. As good as you think you are, you're not. And you're making decisions for the entire city, which really the city manager should be helping you with and all, and guiding you. And it's not putting you down or anything. This is part of what you're getting a city manager for, so that there's the input put in for the benefit of the city in the best way so that you look good. Because right now you got 8 months of really just floundering. So now you're trying to put the anchor down, trying to stop everything going, and trying to look good. And so all I'm suggesting is give yourself a chance. Give yourself a couple of days. You got a bunch of people that you want to pick, that you like and all. It gives you time to think about it. And then figure out how the process is going to be done, who's going to run the picking of the city manager, how you're going to do it. This is all I'm doing, is giving you a suggestion. Don't jump into something where you make a mistake and then we look bad again. Take your time. You're in no rush. You got 8 months without picking the city manager. You fired one before you had another one. That's all I'm asking.
I like that idea, and this way we'd have a little more time if we can postpone it till next week.
I really think the city needs to move forward, and they need to move forward now. If we wait, we've already done their interviews, we know, we all have our ideas of who we want. If we wait till Monday or sometime future, these people may have already accepted another job. And I agree. Yes. Not on mic.
No.
Yes, it went on.
Okay. My name is Debbie Weinstein, resident 441 129th Avenue. Yes, I'm a resident too, and that's why I elected all 5 of you to make those type of decisions, and that's what the electorate is for. I think that we have done without a city manager. I think Daryl's done a great job, but I think we have been without a city manager for 8 months. And I think that you've got some excellent candidates, as you looked at, and I think you should move forward and go for it. Thank you.
I think it's really important that the residents here in Madeira Beach have an opportunity to come in and sit in during that meeting. And I think we should wait. We should wait. Like I said, today's only Tuesday, waiting till Monday, it's not that long of a wait.
In my opinion, that is a long wait considering the time constraints. So, I mean.
My only concern with waiting is, we might lose somebody.
Exactly.
That's my only concern with waiting.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go back to square one and have to start all over.
But then again, if we hire someone tomorrow, and let's say they get a better offer next Monday, they're going to be gone anyway. So what difference does it make?
I don't think the offer thing, I don't think they're really out for the money. It's not who's going to pay me the highest to come here, is what I got out of quite a few of them in the interviews. And basically Jonathan too, because I asked him, I said, do you want a bigger city? Is that where your target is really going and you want that? And it's not really what he wants. So I don't think that the money's going to be that. If we offered him a job, somebody's going to try to outbid us, just per se.
You never know. I honestly feel we should wait. We should wait. That's
Madam
my
Mayor?
opinion.
My only input with that, it was the ICMA has their ethics that these gentlemen agreed to. And one of those ethics say that when you take a job as a city manager, that you will commit yourself to that for a 2-year period. So you can take that into consideration as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last thing you said.
Oh, you can just take that into consideration as well. You're talking about hiring somebody and then them jumping ship to go to another city. You know, they commit to a 2-year term whenever they come to the city.
Well, I think I asked a similar question to that to most of them, and they were all said they would commit to being here, and I really felt like they were sincere. I appreciate your, Nancy, wanting to wait, but I don't think we have the luxury of waiting, or we may lose somebody. So I am going to call a special meeting for 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, and we'll make a decision then. No, but Wednesday.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yes.
Legally, you have to post notice, at least the Attorney General opinion recommends 24 hours, so you'd have to ask the clerks if that's enough time to post it at the City Hall and put on, you don't have to put it on the website, but you can put it on the website also. Also, to advise you, all you need to have a meeting, if you wanted to have a meeting on Thursday, is a quorum, so you don't need every person to be here. You need at least 3 out of 5 to have a quorum.
Okay.
So that might affect your choices too.
So,
Well, I'd make it so Nancy can be here. Wednesday's fine with me.
right,
Right,
okay. All right, any more discussion that's not on the agenda?
Can you do that? No, wait.
We can post it on the bulletin board, but it takes about 7 hours before IT puts it on the website. So it probably won't get posted on the website until tomorrow.
Can you get it to the kiosk and to Winn-Dixie and the library?
We can put it over there.
I don't have the keys. I have to go now and see if I can get the keys in order to put it on the notice boards around town. So,
Okay.
Who has the keys?
Well,
We need to get a
in
copy
case she
of the
doesn't make it, then I'd recommend that you go with Thursday or Friday or Monday. If it's going to be cutting it very close, you know, you'd rather not have something set aside because you had a sunshine violation of having inadequate notice. So I think it's probably more important to ensure that the posting is adequate.
Well, can we try to do it for Wednesday? And if for some reason they can't get it done by 6?
I think you just need to pick a time right now. Just do it Friday. Friday.
Call the public, that's the way.
Friday.
You could poll the members that are here to see how many will be here on Thursday, if you have a quorum, or you could ask for Friday or Monday, or whatever other day you want. I don't recommend meeting on the weekends.
You have a better day, better view on everybody. Monday.
Well, again, I don't want to take any chances of losing any of the candidates.
Just do it Friday.
We may also want to ask if the background checks were completed already. I don't know if those were done.
There's someone that said they were done.
They were done? Okay, correct.
Yes. They were done. Well, I'm going to just revise my statement then. We'll do a special BOC on Friday at 6 p.m. Any more discussion?
Not on that. I have a couple of things to bring up, though.
I'm sorry?
Not on this, but I have a couple of things I wanted to bring up.
Oh, okay.
What is the motion, the current motion then? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
There wasn't a motion. I'm calling for a special meeting.
What is the date and time of the meeting?
The date is Friday, the 26th at 6 p.m.
Okay. I had a couple of things I wanted to bring up, and it was the accounting for the seafood festival and the old salts. I think they've had enough time to do that. They usually come before us.
We did get the money in for the seafood festival.
Oh, no, but I still want to see the accounting that, you know, they talk about how many people came and the revenues and expenses and all that stuff. and I'd like to see that.
It's going to be on the next workshop. It's already scheduled.
It's what?
It's going to be on the next workshop. It's already scheduled.
Okay. I just hadn't heard about it for a couple months, and I thought it was gonna happen in December, and it didn't happen, so I thought I'd bring it up and find out.
We wanted to make sure we had all the revenues in place, and they are, and we'll schedule that meeting.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you.
No problem.
Okay, that's it.
I just want to say, I just want to make one more statement about Doug Andrews. What his statement was earlier, and he alluded to something about the Robert Preston letter. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I just want this to be public, that I received this from a citizen, a private citizen, and that's why I commented on it, and it was not whatever he was that he alluded to that was improper. Anybody have any other things to bring up? This meeting is adjourned at 4:08.